Manjula, hi. Thank you for your time and welcome again to this live session. Actually, so we have done this
Yes.
before, but this is actually more live, and we are going to discuss the practical things that we were talking about the last time. And I know this is a little odd hour based on even US time and India time, so I'm not expecting a whole bunch of people to join in, especially because this is Friday evening. So everyone would be a little, probably having their plans, but we will still go ahead as we had discussed. And
Yes.
today, the session we had the last time, we discussed some real issues like we notice in the practices of HR. So let's discuss some of these things that we notice where people are experiencing and coming up to us with these kind of actual situations, and let's discuss those points. So uh, I had one query from one person regarding hosting. So this is something probably even your friends have noticed a lot, and as you might have said, so
Yes.
this person was chased. I'm not going to name the company. This person was chased by this company for more than 4 weeks, where they were literally after him that we really want to interview you. Your profile is great, etc., etc., etc. And finally, when this person went for the interview, he went for the whatever the sessions it was. I think after the second round, he got completely ghosted. Probably the second round, because the first round with the normal telephonic round with the recruiter is what he didn't discuss. And he said I was completely ghosted. And then after chasing these recruiters and hiring manager, he came to know that someone got internally hired, so that referral was hired, and
Mm-hmm.
recruitment process which happened was a complete gimmick, basically for the way of showing that we are actually recruiting or going by the process, but people are actually getting hired through referrals, and everyone else is literally ghosted. So
Mm-hmm.
what is your say on this kind of practice? And it is not so uncommon. So what do you have to say about this one?
Okay. Firstly, let me thank everyone joining in from the IST time zone, from the CST and the EST, and again, yes, different parts of the world. Well, I'm not the Josh person of HR processes. So whatever I share here, whatever I share with the group, and whatever Shrabonee shares in the group, this is based on our collective experience that we have garnered over the last 15 plus 20 years that we have been into HR. And this thing about ghosting is happening more than ever now. I mean, like earlier, yes, there used to be ghosting maybe 10, 15 years ago. But then at least, you people had, or say the HR or the recruiters, they did have the basic courtesy to at least pick your call up or call you up and say, this may not work or we are not moving ahead with the process. But now it's a complete radio silence, is what I have been observing. And as I said, it is a classic case because we are hiring resumes and not people. We really don't have time to go through, to talk to people. We have only time to scan through the resumes because the AT has already scanned that for us. So
Yeah, but
that's
then
what.
how do you address the situation where good candidates, good resumes are still ghosted because someone internally got hired and they were
Okay.
already chosen? Like the hiring manager already knows who I want to hire. The rest of the 20 people who get interviewed are actually just an eyewash. Like we want to show to audit that we
That
have actually gone through the
we have
process.
already
But
process.
my
Yes.
my my guy is getting hired. I already have decided on that. So what is this kind of thought process?
Well, there is no thought process behind it as such, being as a HR manager or as a HR fraternity. It's just the culture of the organization and everyone is party to it. So as a candidate, I can't do much about, what is happening inside the process unless someone calls me up and tells me that I'm extremely sorry that you had to go through it, and we had to go through this whole lot of 8 to 10 rounds of discussion with you, and then we have, but then how many of the HR folks actually come back and tell us that this is what went wrong, and how many are honest and genuine about the whole thing? Not really, not much. So it's just the process which has a lot of leakages. And the other most important thing for me, what I have observed, it's all up there. It all drills down to your culture. What is the culture in the organization that we are talking about? Why are these leakages in these little processes that make a whole lot of difference? So, for the last 1.5 year, everyone in HR has been talking about not just HR, even the tech folks and the other folks, everyone, the whole world is talking about being having the process completely digitized. And we have improved our customer experiences, we have improved our employee experiences, we have kind of installed the different chatbots within the process to see how well the employees are engaging, and all that jazz is going around. But then, despite using technology as a savior, despite using AI, are we really humanizing as an HR? Not really.
Yeah, that's a human resource. Human
Human.
resource is actually becoming kind of robotic resource because
Yes.
I have experienced this 20 years back where someone would actually take time to interview us when
Yes.
we were starting out, and the
Yes.
conversations would go sometimes way beyond our our CV, and the discussions would be like they would actually try to understand the person that we are.
Yes.
So the
Yes.
CV, yes, what we have done, how we have studied and what we did, but it would also go like, tell us something about you. What do you like to do? So our hobbies, our passion, our things that we like or not, tells a lot about us, right? So that is something a person would spend time to understand. These days, even when I'm talking to the companies regarding, project contracts, and they want to understand a little about what we have done, the projects we do. And the question is like, can you tell us something about, your experience? My experience is right there in front of your eyes on the curriculum vitae. You just go through it. They don't even take to go through that. So
Yes.
this is the concern I have about
Hmm.
some of the practices that's coming in, and yet there are good HRs. Like I spoke to some gentleman. This was pre-COVID. He had no idea about my CV. We just interacted on LinkedIn, and he said, "I find your headline is pretty interesting. I just want to understand a little more."
Yes.
And the
Yes.
conversation was so good, and he was an HR head with some good company. We were just discussing, and that is human resource where you talk and find out more about the person, because yes, CV is right there in front of us, but are we really finding out the passions and the skills of people, which is not still there on the resume? That's something I would like to actually touch around also. So, hi Bruce, I
Yes.
see you now.
Hi, Bruce. Bruce
Hello,
was trying to.
Manjula. Hello,
Hi,
New
hi, Bruce.
World.
Hi. This is Shrabonee. Neuworldz is my company. So hi, thank you so much for joining in. So
I
uh,
I saw this on Manjula's
yeah,
LinkedIn, and I have a short time. I thought, okay, I'm going to try to visit. So I'm
Thank you.
Bruce.
thank you, Bruce,
Yeah.
for joining in.
So, Shrabonee, Bruce, and I are a part of the Organization Design Forum group that I spoke to you about. And we meet once in a month where we have collective discussions about the different trends in organizational design. And Bruce has been great, I would say, a seer who always kind of, sees through what is Manjula up to, what is the new thing that she's doing. And he's the one, I mean, like, I kind of resort to or talk to quite often in terms of my goals and what is that I want to do, how I want to go through. So that's the bond that we share. Thank you, Bruce, for making it to this session. So appreciate that you took out some time.
I, I just wanted to see what you're up to. And can you tell me, New Worlds? I only know your name that way. Can you tell me your name again so I can
Yeah,
get the
it's
right one?
Shrabonee. We'll connect on LinkedIn. My name is Shrabonee, and
Shaboni.
we'll
Okay.
connect on LinkedIn, so you will have my name and everything out there. So we were talking about the practices in HR, the good, the bad, and everything in between. So that's
uh,
what we are discussing about. So the other thing, Manjula, which we were discussing the other day, is the craze for certification versus actual experience. So people are facing that a lot. So someone with so here's a friend of mine, 12 years of actual project management experience without a PMP certification. So he applies for a job and the recruiter comes back saying, you do not have a PMP certification. So he was like, yeah, but no one asked for it because I already have the real practical experience in that. So this guy tells him that, we would actually be getting into the second round in like 2 weeks because now we are all having the first round. Could you please just, enroll for a PMP certification within this time because it's only a 4-day course and get it done so I can push your CV because you really have a great experience. Why? That craze for certification. I mean, will 3 days of certification actually make him worth, some learning something
Yes.
more than what he had acquired for 12 years? What is that?
Not really. So there is a huge demand for these certifications that you see, not just in, the technical field, but also, in the HR and the OD field as well. Well, if there is a demand, of course, if there is a demand, there will be a supply as well. But also, we need to understand that people get started in their jobs without certification. They learn through the ropes, they climb up the ladder. And maybe, maybe 10, 15 years down the line, if they feel there is a need, then yes, they may go for certification or if the organization demands for it. Now, if you ask me, even I have a certification from Hayes as a job evaluator, costing me worth 1 lakh rupees that I spent on a 2-day certification, which is nicely sitting in my email. And Hayes has never even hired me as a consultant. So this itself talks about the validity of your certification, that you have
Exactly.
certified me as a Hayes evaluator for jobs, job evaluator, and you have not hired me for any projects. So that itself is a validation for your certification. So, basing a 2-day certification that runs into lakhs to validate a talent, I think that's not a great way to kind of, look at the one that you want to hire. Bruce,
Yeah.
you have thoughts on this? I mean, like
Yes, please.
we did speak about certification some time back when I asked you, is it worth, I don't have a certification and how do I get into organizational design? And you had some gems that you shared with me that time. I remember.
I don't remember any gems. Um, I think of certification is partly a way to make money for the certifying organization.
Yes.
Um, and partly I have seen certifications that I think added validity to the person's experience. Like in my case, I might have some certifications I don't even remember, but
Exactly.
I will say that I did get a degree that I felt like it was very helpful. Now I did my degree program while I was in a job doing that. So the two got to argue with each other. What I was trying on the job was very different than what we were being taught in school. So I'd go to school and say, why doesn't this work? And they'd have answers and I'd try something different. And that I think was really helpful to help me get a both framework and experience. Most certifications that I've been part of never did that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree because I'm aware of someone. Now they live in the same city. She's a fashion designer by her qualification. She studied that, pursued that, and then she's felt, fashion designing doesn't have enough job. I think I need to move into something. She did some Scrum certification course, and now she's into software. She's a software engineer. Excuse me? Like, does that 1 week course, I mean, less than a 1 week course, certify someone to be in a place and job which actually experientially the person is not there when compared to many others who's probably worthwhile or worthy of that position? Certifications are ruling the world. Why? I mean, seriously?
I guess it's all about the mindset, that the HR or say the organization comes with. They feel that okay, if this person has this certification, it also adds on to their brand image. So I remember an organization a few maybe a year or two got their entire HR folks certified with a 2-day program in organizational design. What happened after that? I have no clue about it. How many stayed in the organization after the certificate?
In 2 days,
2-day organization
organizational
design.
design in 2 days.
Yes, yes. The whole lot, the whole bunch, a very reputed organization, the entire HR bunch. Maybe they had the budgets. They had a free-flowing budgets, and yes, they thought they might be, able to change the world with all this certification. What happened? I have no clue. How many stayed back after the certification in the organization? I have no clue. But then I was literally taken aback. The entire team going through it for what? Is it really a need at this point in time, or is it just a fad?
Can I flip the question
Sure.
around and say,
Yes.
how do each of us decide that somebody is capable of doing what we want them to do? How do we know when somebody has the right stuff?
We observe them, Bruce. We observe them with the projects. We see the intent the person has when he or she does his job. We see the experiences that they bring through, with their previous employers, and they apply it. We see people who how well they are able to move from the knowns to the unknowns and the knowns. So these are a few things that we observe. Shrabonee, what do you Atif? Also see Atif with us.
Yes, hi
Atif.
Atif.
Hi,
Camera
Atif.
is not on, but we are still able to see you.
Yes.
Great.
One
If you
minute.
want.
Hi, hi.
Yes.
This is Atif.
Hi, Atif. Yeah. Hi, Atif.
Hi Atif.
Hello. Yeah.
Manjula ma'am, I am one of those trainees of Vivek sir from Bangalore,
I remember.
and I had participated. Yeah, you remember? Yeah. So I saw this, while going through LinkedIn. I thought, no, let me just tune in and basically to learn from experienced people like you.
So thank you so much for joining, Atif. It's really nice to have you all. I mean,
Yeah.
we are at very varied time zones. It's very difficult to have
I work as an yeah, thank you. I work as an HR professional in a manufacturing and retail setup in India, Ajmal Perfumes, and
Okay.
it's a very interesting topic that you all are discussing. And I know especially Manjula madam, she is basically into organization design, and it was a lovely session with her, Vivek sir. So that's why I thought really they would be really gems of wisdom. I really need to be an active listener and keep listening from experienced people like you. More than
please
me
do
talking, I would
share.
love to be an active listener throughout.
Yes, and Atif, please do share your experiences because as an HR person, I think you can also tell us something about the good and bad practices and everything in between that we just need to realize what is happening and how can HR just, because it's the front face of every organization. So that's your inputs would matter. So talking about the point that we were discussing on that how do we know like what Bruce asked, like how do we know that a person's experiences, like if that person is
Yeah.
skilled on so this is what I had done whenever I would be interviewing someone is that I actually just tell them that, I don't want to go through your certifications because that's not going to talk about your experience. Tell us about some actual projects you've done and what were the tools or things that you applied or what was your mind thought process or how you dealt with the situation. And it doesn't matter whether that project was a success or not because we also learn from failure, but we fail sooner, we learn better, so that's the thing. But what was your thought process and what approach did you take and what results did you see and learn out of that? So the results good or bad, but just share. So Bruce, this is something I do. I kind of ask people about their actual experiences. So there are people who do make up stories, and that becomes pretty apparently clear because, they would want to use this is at least what I have noticed some typical jargons, industry jargons come in and they want to make it sound all flowery. And there are people who want to, discuss about real issues, and you can make out when they are talking about it. You can actually make out what are the instances that may have happened and sometimes I ask them like, can you specify a certain incident that happened while you were doing the project? It could be a human or a process related factor, but you kind of addressed it. So this is how I try to understand a candidate's way of dealing with it. But certifications, I'm not a very keen on certification kind of person because I know there are people who are very, they're fishing for certifications. They want to get certifications, but they are not very keen on getting experiences. So
Yeah.
yes, that's what at least I do. In fact, I have in my org, I have hired this girl who's an architect by her. her qualifications, but she does amazing job when it comes to content writing and branding. It's her skill, it's her passion, and I see what she does. It's like she's like, I'm not too keen to do architecture. I want to do pursue something on this. I said, let's do that. Let's see how you do it, and she's doing good. She's doing great. So does certification really have a big role to play? Is what I'm thinking. Upskilling, yes. If you're into a profession and you want to upskill after a certain point of time, maybe after 5 years or 10 years, yes, absolutely. But you are in a completely different
Base.
profession
Yeah.
and you just get a 2-day or 3-day certification and call yourself a professional practitioner is thing I have a little issue with, because maybe practically people are not really there where they want to be, but it's just an eyewash to make people think that they can do that. That's what I'm
For
concerned.
me, Shrabonee, it's like, I would not want to use this word insult, but then it's an insult to people who have been in that profession for 30, 40
And work
years,
hard. Yes,
and who have thrived and who are still learning and who are still open to unlearning as well. So just
exactly.
with this 2-day certification, you base your entire career. So that's where, we come back to the question of looking at resumes and not spending enough time with people talking about their passions, talking about something which is not there in the resume, because one cannot write everything in the resume.
Exactly. True.
So a lot of it comes through, the informal discussions and the chats that we have with people during the interview process. So we also spoke about, the first topic that we had was ghosting. There's a clear pattern that you see in the industry now. Why would the HR or why would someone ghost you? It's
Hmm.
like, I have this resume churner with me called as the ATS, applicant tracking system, which throws up, a data of 10,000, which gives me the top 10 resumes from 10,000, source of data that people apply to a job. So in that 10,000, in fact, I had spoken, in fact, I have a close friend who is a talent acquisition manager. And I asked him, tell me, how does this ATS works? What do you actually do? So he was like, look, we feed in the data. We tell the ATS that these are the fields that we are looking at. We want someone with 8 to 10 years of experience with these skills and these companies only. And in 10 minutes, you have 10 minutes, we have about top 10 resumes. And we just go and share this with the business. Our job is done. So I'm like, are those ten people that you have shortlisted, are they the best one? He was like, I'm not sure if they are the best or they are the, the rottest of the lot. Then these are the words that he used. I don't care. My job is to scan, screen the resume and give it to the business. And I have done my job. So it's for the business to decide who they want to call for the interview and how they want to proceed with the interview. It's like it's a headache. That's what he told me. 10,000. And he was like, do you expect me to go through all the 10,000, 10,000 resumes and speak to all 10,000 people? Why would I do that in the, I mean, like on this
Yeah,
work?
it's not humanly possible, yes. And
But
I have a concern about these things like certain B schools and certain X
yes,
orgs to decide a
yes,
person's caliber. I have
yes, yes.
issues on that because this was something. So Bruce and Atif, you were not aware of this. So Manjula and I, we were having a discussion last a few days ago. There was this gentleman I knew who was a colleague, co-worker. He unfortunately could not do his college degree because his father passed away when he was very young, and he somehow completed his schooling. So he didn't have any formal degrees, but he was an amazing person when it comes to working knowledge.
Mm,
Amazing working knowledge. He would help people stuck in any point of their job. Give he had the right tricks up his sleeve. He knew what is to be done, but when it comes to formal degrees, certifications, he was not there. So do we decide a person's caliber based on just these formal big B school names, big org names to decide their caliber? Is the question. So is it really good? Is it really fair? I mean, people can have all kinds of situations in their lives. Uh, Someone may not be in the position to go for a real premium B school or get hired in one of the top CMM level 5 companies. Why are we still into that kind of mindset that if you were not there, you cannot be with us? So
Can I try to make it worse?
Sure.
Sure. I don't know if you have this, but I'm used to a very negative term called the old boys club. Have you heard that?
Yes, the click.
And what it means to me is that these old white men who have worked together for many years trust each other. So when something needs to be done, when somebody needs to be hired, they hire one of their old white, boys. And what happens as a result of that is no brown, black, or green girls ever get hired. They just don't. It's just totally discrimination. But yet, I found that anybody that I've worked with for a while, whether they're green girls or white boys, if I've worked with them for a while on something that's very hard, or we get tired and we don't care anymore, but if we can work through that together, I get to learn who I trust and who, like you were saying, Shrabonee, like who is just amazing and they can come through at the right time. That's how I learn it. And so I think of it as what I wish we had, and I don't see it in real life. What I wish we had is a lot more internships and working together on temporary projects
yes,
as a way of interviewing, as a way of learning. No resumes, no certification.
yeah, I'm glad. I think similarly like you, Bruce, because I kind of started this thing, especially after the COVID situation. I call it like a non, it's like it's something like an open collaboration. So a person can actually work with me based on the projects they give, and they based on the project they get paid. But it's no strong commitment. Like you don't have to commit from work for specific hours, and I'm probably not going to pay them a fixed salary every month, and they don't have to come back just working for me. So it's like an open collaboration. But if you get me a project or if you want to collaborate, we are fine. So I had been able to connect with at least 15 people in the last few months who wanted to be associated, and we are working like that. So they are able to maintain an employment, they are able to explore a different field, they are able to earn extra, and we have great learning collaborations. But I think that is something I kept open, and I posted a few days back on LinkedIn saying that if somebody just lost their job or having a difficult time because of COVID, please refer them because we would certainly want to work together. So I might be just adding two little drops in an ocean, but even those two drops, if I could, I would rather add instead of pouring buckets into a pool which doesn't require any water. Also, it's
Hey,
just
Shrabonee, we also
Can
have
I?
Neelima with us. Yes, Atif, a second. We also have Neelima with us. Hi, Neelima. I think
we
she's
just lost her. Yes, Atif, back to
okay.
you.
Fine. Yes, Atif, you had something to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to, share some observations of mine when we talked about certifications. I am a strong believer in learning by doing. So that is a simple statement, learning by doing. I can recall a quote by Benjamin Franklin that you tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, but you involve me and I learn.
Yes.
So the involvement part is very important. And to be very honest, let me be very humble. I represent an organization which is a very traditionally managed organization, typical family managed business where there aren't those systems and processes which are there in the best of the best companies. And because of other compulsions, and it's a remote place where I stay in Assam, so because of family obligations, I wasn't able to move to the metros. So because of family obligations, so I had the difficulty, I had the scope, I did not have the scope. I mostly deal with blue collar workers. And where's the learning? I really had to upskill myself. So for that, I was on the lookout for some good certifications. And most of the certifications, as you talked about, very funny in 2 days, what they are doing. And we don't see the application stuff. However, recently I was fortunate enough to enroll myself under NHRD Kolkata for a competency-based HRM program. That was for around 8 weeks. And Not 8 weeks, sorry, that was probably for around 6-7 weeks, but it was wonderful. They took us through the basics of competencies and how competencies create an impact, basically. And while you talked about having degrees and certifications and all that, but something, all those competencies like resilience, collaboration, everything what we talk about, that get reflected in situations. And once we put them into assessment centers and other stuff, we get to see how they actually behave and react. That is why one of those, and that's a very nice course that I got, an exposure of the basics of competencies. Then I was again, thinking of going deeper into this field of assessments. Recently, I came across that Aon Certified Assessments Ready program.
I saw that. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm taking recommendations, trying to get some recommendations from people in my network. Should I go or should I not go for it? 30,000 needs to be invested at the time of COVID. It's
40,000.
okay. 30,000. But a few people have really recommended me for that course because they have integrated that learning by doing in the sense that they have case studies and case studies in that integrated into it. So that is something I might get into it. But all this while, even the NHRD faculty who was our faculty for that competency-based HRM, that gentleman who's a professor of XLRI and ISWBM Kolkata, I also spoke to him, sir. I want to get into projects. I know it's a virtual world now. So it's projects I can really deliver time and all that. So he said, of course, if there is something, I'll get back to you. So there hasn't been any projects. So looking for projects so far. Let's see if I can get involved. But contemplating to basically get into that Aon assessments thing and really understand the science of assessments. The other thing, what you talked about is people having those kind of very rigid mindsets of getting into a decision-making phase on pre-decided policies and all that. I'm strictly, against it. I am always open for an open mind. Let's try people, because people also go for transitions. People also respond to their inner calling at a very later stage in their life because of realizations or maybe dearth of opportunities, that hidden potential. That's why we talk about potential assessment. So that's why we have these tools. Let's bring out those qualities. An HR person really needs to ignite that spark, find out that potential, and actually work for that fitment. So that is something I'm a strong advocate of that. And I really love when you talk about all those biases which we have, which we really need to shed as early as possible. My observation.
Exactly. A very good point actually this brought in was that sometimes people go into that transition in their career a little later part of their lives. But this is why we were talking about human resource personals should actually have a discussion when they are interviewing beyond the curriculum vitae also, because if you have a passion, it will show up in something or the other, whether it is in your professional or personal life in some ways or the other. So that's something I think every HR person should try. I mean, if we are talking to a person, don't stick to a resume, because a lot of people are trying to go through a transition. I'm sure we find people who have got engineering degrees but actually are working in banks and doing nothing about engineering. So there are people who do that, but it's like you have a passion in you and you want to pursue that, or at least you have a knack towards something, done something.
But see, for that, finding that knack out, one needs to spend time with the candidate. If I don't spend time while interviewing, I will not be able to, find the hidden knacks or hidden worth that the person has. Like I tried this when I was actually asked to headhunt for an applicant, for a for-profit organization. So all that I did was I just went through their resumes, in the first lot. And then I started calling them one by one. And all I would speak with them was about their hobbies, their likings, what picks them in their career.
How many times do you read the hobby column in a resume? I do that a lot. I mean, I do read that.
I do read. Yes.
What I've listed on.
And then as we spoke about, as Bruce shared about taking up a small project or, taking up an apprentice project or a short project, I did exactly that with this applicant. I said, okay, fine. Now that, we have shortlisted your candidature, why don't you come and, work with us, experience us as an organization. We would not want to experience you, but you will experience us and you will tell me How do you find working with us? This is a short project for you. You just have to come and observe us, see our processes, get into our classes, observe the classes, make a report, and yes, we'll pay you for that. So for those 15 days that she came with us, this lady who came with us as an apprentice, I mean, like experienced person, experienced of almost 10 to 15 years, but then she chose to come in as an apprentice, observe us, work with us, experience us as an organization, and then take a call. And I said that the call is yours. If you want to work with us after all these experiences, let me know. It's up to you. We would not force you. So, see, the point is, we have this ATS which kind of, throws up the best top 10. And from the top 10, you have the 5, 6 which get shortlisted. Now, even after that, if you tell me that we don't have time to get back to the people and tell them what happened with their application, I don't take that as an HR person. I mean, like, you have only 5 to 6 people to get back to because you have already shortlisted them from the 10,000 odd people. So what is it that is stopping you, to not to get back to these people and just ghost them and not even bother that they have spent their time. They have gone through a process with you, almost about 5 to 6 rounds, starting from the recruiter to the hiring manager to the business.
Emotions get involved in it, right? A lot of faith, hope, emotions, everything get involved in this.
Yes.
Yes, it's something that is not such a great practice, so I think should.
And it's also the culture, Shrabonee. It speaks a lot about the employer branding. I just read that today, just before getting into this call, where the CHROs of the organization, they say, I mean, like, they just had a statement to make that we also need to respect the talent that has not joined the organization and they have come to us for the interview. So I was like, I mean, like, what took you so long to realize that the people who are not part of your organization but have applied as an applicant are also important? What took you so long to realize this? And now, after so many years, or maybe after COVID, you're making the statement on some ETHR. And I was like, all that you have to do is those 5, 6 resumes that you need to get back and tell them what happened with their candidature. And even, I mean, like, your ATS cannot do that for you. ATS has shortlisted. That's it.
Yes.
ATS cannot read the resumes. They cannot read people while you interview. So basing everything on AI is also not good.
Right.
But I see you emphasizing, Manjula, is I hear you connecting respect and brand. That the
Yes.
whole process, everything about it, whether it's just they send in a resume or they make contact, that we do our best to respect them. And you gave a lot of different ways to do that. And if we do respect them and they feel it, that improves our brand. Whether or not we hire them, they tell their world how good we are.
Exactly.
They say, oh, that's a great place to work.
Exactly.
Exactly. This is how I was treated during the interview process. Let me share with you one more example. My friend was going through this. I mean, like, bad COVID times. And,
Manjula, we may have to log off back because this session is going to expire in next 2 minutes. So if we would like to connect back again in case we are abruptly disconnected.
Sure.
I have to go in 5 minutes anyway,
Yes.
so I appreciate your letting me be on. I won't come back because I have to go to another meeting.
Hey, so
Pleasure.
thank you so much, Bruce.
Thank you.
Actually, thank you so much for joining in.
And it's good to meet you also, Atif.
Thank you. Same here, sir. Same here, sir.
Ashwin, I didn't meet you. Goodbye, everybody.
Yes. Yeah. Bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much for joining
Sure.
us. So we are actually a
We will
little,
log back. We will log in again.
just
Should
in
we?
case this might just get disconnected.
Yeah.
So which is likely. So we would just connect back in case this
Yeah, we will connect back. Yeah.
sets off.
So as we are speaking, I also, observe certain patterns and trends, in various organizations when we talk about ghosting. Of course, the first one we spoke about, it's not easy. I mean, like, it's not easy for the recruiter also, but then the AI is making your job easy. So better respect the system. And yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I think there were recruiters who came back. I mean, they were officially ghosting me, and they came back telling me internally somebody got hired and we could
Yes,
do
yes.
nothing. But our performance was questioned because, they said, "Who have we hired from your list of recruitments?" But actually, the boss's, brother-in-law or somebody
Connections.
else is getting hired. So that's the thing. So and these recruiters are not happy either. But like we were
They're not.
discussing the other day, that HR, being the front face, of the organization, has a strong say if they feel that this organization's practice, which is percolating down from some senior person, nowhere related to an HR situation, needs to understand that we as HR need to enhance certain practices or do away with few because that affects the organization's brand. I think
See,
I
there are
would certainly
linkages.
agree on
There,
these things. Like a lot of
yes.
things I'm sure you experience which should be the right thing for an org, but a lot of bosses don't realize that because they are not HR people points which were pretty good, and I think I really love the contributions which Bruce and Atif made,
Atif.
which was so essential for us to realize that, like we had discussed, I mean, HR has got all these like of nuances, but then business has to realize too, like these are certain things that happens and business needs to realize, like, you cannot push an HR to act or work in a certain way, which is basically putting a bad name for the organization.
Yeah, see, there is also, as I also spoke about the culture part, of all the, thoughts that we had, we shared about that it's easy, we have a resume churner. It's the indifference attitude most of the time that, why do I have to get back to people? Any which ways, he or she is not a best fit. Then, of course, you have this thing that, okay, it is so tiresome to, to churn those 10,000 resumes and share it with the business. Business keeps on changing its requirements. So I have kind of heard these very first-hand information from a lot of people who I know in the HR fraternity. But then everything boils down to the culture. What is the culture of the organization and how it is trickling down? Let me share you a small example. This happened recently with my friend again. So because of COVID, yes, many people have lost their jobs, and she had applied to this big five organization, and of course there were few rounds of interview, and as usual, as we all know, she got ghosted. So
Mm.
she reached out to the, somehow she managed to reach out to the recruiter after a lot of calls being missed out by the recruiter. The recruiter finally takes up the call and says, okay, see, we are not going ahead with your resume because the CHRO feels, the CHRO is not very okay with people who have lost or who have been asked to leave or fired or sacked in the organization.
This
This was the
is
response. Yes.
this is my biggest challenge and my argument with anyone. So you remember the not the pandemic, the recession that happened in 2008,
Yeah. The yeah.
and that was the recession that happened then in 2008, and now in 2020 is the pandemic situation, which again changed job markets such big time. Both the times where people lost their jobs, their caliber was questioned. Why?
Yes. Yes.
My thought process is, if I am judging a person for who he or she is, I should be able to know that this person should make the best out of any situation. They are trying to survive. They are a fighter. They are trying to survive. They are not breaking down under whatever circumstances it is. So this is something that I wanted to uh, understand from an HR person's perspective. What is that thought process? Is it that we are judging people by the designations they hold, the organizations they serve, the certifications they have? Is it that we are judging people by these fancy terms, or
The tangibles.
are we as HR people giving that time and effort to understand, even if it's like we are not hiring a person, but at least give that 30 minutes, they deserve it, to understand their qualities, to take a very informed call, if this person is a good fit or not. But do not judge the person because they do not hold a job, or they don't have a certain designation, or they do not work for the big five. So that's the thing. So
So
hi
that's also
Josh, thanks
the.
for joining.
Hi, Josh.
Hi guys. I'm so sorry I'm late. I just got caught up with a bunch of
No
other stuff,
problem.
so I tried to get here as soon as I could.
That's
Thank you.
okay. So Josh is actually in Pacific time, and he is 2 hours behind. So this is really early morning for him. It's like
Yeah, this is
7:30, seven
pretty
forty.
early, almost 7:45. Yeah, thank you
It,
so much, Josh.
sure. Nice to meet you both.
Yeah.
So
So,
this is something that we wanted to, and just to introduce Josh and I have this common thing. So we are client partners, and we are also different industry professionals working towards passionate towards a certain different industry, which is jewelry and gemstones. So
jewelry. Yeah.
he owns an e-commerce
Cataracts? Cataracts?
Caratex, yes, Caratex.
Caratex,
So
yes,
he
yes.
owns Caratex, and he basically you're from the automobile industry, right, Josh?
I did, yeah. I started on the automotive side and had a passion for diamonds, gems, and jewelry.
Yeah, so this is exactly
Yeah.
one of the things we were talking about in today's call is that to judge people, not to judge people by their resumes, but also by the passion and skill set they bring in. So,
And
So
I
true.
really like the point that Atif mentioned that, maybe late in our careers is when we realize what could be our true calling. We have been working as an automobile engineer or as an HR, as a software engineer, but then it's only after a few years, maybe 15, 20 years of our career, that's when we say, okay, now this is my calling and this is what I would like to pursue. So, how is that taken up, or how is that looked at by organization, that there is a career change? I mean, like, careers have to be fluid, they cannot be rigid.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
so this other thing that we were talking about, Manjula, and this is the mention that Atif brought in also, which is very essential. So like we said, that it has to somewhere show in our, the way we work and the practices that we have. So, for example, if a person is supposedly, like, I don't care if you've been an engineer and now you want to work in some different field which is completely different, but it has to show in some things that you've done, whether professionally or non.
Yes.
You
Yes.
cannot be an individual contributor, not a team person, not a people's person, and then try to show yourself to be an amazingly marketing sales guy. Because have you really been that skilled at talking to people and convincing? You getting the point? So
Yeah.
that's what I am trying to actually see through when it comes to reading resumes as well. So,
Yes,
so
yes. I
that's
mean,
something I'd
I
like
would say, yeah, I would
to be
also
deciding that.
look at what are the uncharted paths that you have taken in your life and your career. What kind of risks that you have taken? What have you done about something that you never knew, but you just told yourself, let me jump into this and see how it feels like,
That's how
to be
you
a part.
grow.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's how you
That's how you
grow.
grow. And we
How you
change,
grow.
right? We change over time. Like the person I was 10 years ago was not the same person that's sitting here today, but that's because, like you said, you take additional risks um, and try and gauge those risks appropriately, but you have to step outside of your comfort zone to really grow. And
Yeah,
I really respect people that do that.
Yeah.
yeah.
Bonnie's definitely one of those people, and it's great. It's great working with her. It's a pleasure. We luckily get to meet every Friday morning. So
Yeah, and how many times have we been able to? So there's we have another partner, Keith. So Keith, Josh, and we every
Okay.
Friday. How many times did we come back saying that this is something we have to do, and probably we took a little more time than that, but we make it a point, we set our targets, and we are heading towards it. So there's
yeah,
always that motivation that we are answerable to each other to come
we are.
back on this.
We do.
And
Each other.
Responsibility.
Yeah, we hold each other accountable for sure. It's
yes,
great.
and we make sure we do that. And in case if we are unable to do something, like yesterday, I sent out
We
this
own
text,
it.
hey guys, I will not be able to join our call,
Yeah,
the usual call. Join this. So we are constantly informing. So are candidates doing that? Are folks doing that? Are the businesses doing that? So this is the mutual respect that has to happen. If a business tells the HR, and I'm not saying that HR people are always the guilty folks, no, their hands are tidy.
right.
Business says we want these criterias, these are the keywords, these are the things, and we don't care, just bring us that candidate. And the HR person understands that this is probably not the right way, but Hands were tired because that's what the business told me. Are we
Uh,
communicating our thoughts? Atif, you are the HR person here. Tell us how
yes.
are
I,
we
I wanted
Atif
to
has something
I
to
wanted
share.
to
Yes.
respond. Yeah, I wanted to
Yes.
respond.
Yes.
First of all, when you talk, given when you have talked about an organization which is a very fast-paced organization, and the environment is like super fast, speed is something, and creativity is something which they have defined in their core competencies. Now,
Yeah.
whenever the HR person is actually interviewing the person is very, very preoccupied with the skill set, with the knowledge set.
Mm.
Is it really digging well enough to find out whether the
Doubt.
person would bring in creativity? What are the tools he's actually applying? What are the situations he has basically put up so that the person demonstrates creativity, so that the person demonstrates adaptability, collaboration,
Yeah.
and is basically is at a it works at a rate which would catch up with the organization rate.
Mm.
So those are very much important to test them on those parameters. Number one. Number two, you have been talking about, and many times have spoken about, going beyond CVs. As they say, there's a famous, we keep reading those quotes, a person and his caliber is not defined by a two-page
Right.
resume. A
Mm.
person is not defined by the resume. He is much, much more. If those 2 pages are just 2 pages, the person is an entire book. So that's why that is something a person really, an HR person needs to develop, that empathy, and basically needs to dig further to understand, and basically needs to correlate strong enough statistically or otherwise. He really needs to correlate that the person is the right fit. He would demonstrate those core competencies which would match with the organization competencies.
Right.
Okay. Now,
Yeah.
coming to right fit, one cannot have 100% fit that we
Yeah.
aim for. It cannot
Absolutely.
be 100%.
Absolutely.
It's
Yeah.
always a 80
Absolutely.
20 or 70 30. 80 is what I bring in with my experiences, and 20 is what I develop and I upskill, I unlearn, I unskill everything in that organization where I'm going to work. So if you ask me if there is an ideal candidate, you will never find an ideal candidate. So
Yeah.
please,
Agreed completely.
yes, you're never going to find that. So stop your stop that process the minute you find someone who matches or who is as per your value system or your culture. Don't dig further and say
Absolutely.
he will get back to you, because we are still looking at 10 more people. So when is that going to stop? You will just continue,
Mm.
you will just keep looking. That's it. You will never find the ideal person
It's
or
true.
the
Yeah.
ideal
No.
I
person to
can
fit.
only speak on behalf of Josh, and I can say that our organizations are still young, and we are at least practicing that. We give people a chance.
We do. Yeah.
We give people a chance. We talk to understand their passion. So, what are they going to stick to? Now, this is another thing that I think not just recruiters or business. I think everyone we should see and
Everyone.
understand is that we won't be able to perform from day one. Every person coming into an organization, they need that that honeymoon phase or that whatever phase, which is
Mm.
basically an acclimatization to learn, to understand, to grasp what's going on, and to know how do I fit in to contribute. It's the recruiter's job, and so is that of the hiring manager, to understand that they would fit in better than the other people we are interviewing. But they will not be performing from day one. So having those skyrocketing, expectation is wrong. So you cannot actually start judging people on their performance from there. But how fast are they learning, or how effectively are
Agile.
they engaging? I mean, even if they are not saying anything, are they engaging in meetings,
Mm.
discussions, being part of it? So that is the other thing, is that are we giving opportunities to the right people, or are we just deciding flat based on the two sheet of papers, like as Atif said, like are we just taking a decision based on that, or are we giving people a chance based on human interaction and conversation that has happened? And as a human resource person, are we taking time to understand the other human and not just
Yeah.
those two sheets of paper?
Exactly. Yeah. Agreed. I like to gauge people. I like to try and understand what drives a person. So like you said, Atif, and Manjula, not what's condensed on the 2 pieces of paper, but once you understand what drives somebody, then you can figure out where they fit within the organization, and then from there it's just a measure of consistency to me.
Exactly.
and how they treat others, how they interact with others. Do they align with your values, your personal values, as well as your professional ones? Yeah, but there is no right fit. There's no perfect
There's no
fit.
right.
People who would stay put with us even when there are, so people often feel that there is either success or failure. True, but there is also a lot of thing in between. Sometimes you won't see any result.
Right.
There's a
You
lot of
stick
great with
along
no
with
results.
it, even when you don't see any result. Even I am going to again give Josh's example. Josh, how long did your organization take to decide on the right software team to upgrade your
2 years.
2 years.
2 years? I think I
Yeah.
was aware knows 2 years is what your orgs have been performing, but I think it took them almost every regular week they would be interviewing teams, and it took you
Yeah.
I think 2 months almost to
Oh yeah.
get
When
to
we
the right team.
when we moved from one to the other, it probably took about 6 months, I would say, maybe tops, before we finally maybe a full quarter, and then I think we spent a couple months, and we were bouncing stuff off you and checking with you as well. It took a while.
And they were all along communicating with the teams that why we are going with you and why we are not
Yeah.
going with you.
Yeah, we were,
But
and
the
that's
selection
impactful.
process, yes, it took a
Yeah.
long time.
Yep.
And
It
I was informed every time that we are getting someone or we are not getting someone. So
Not
who
getting
exactly
someone.
am I? I was no one, but that informed that we are
The point
taking
is-
time to come
yes.
back to you because our back end is taking time. Now that is about an org.
See, it's all about the mindset and the attitude. It's
Mhm.
like
Absolutely.
0 and 1. You do it or you don't do it. It's that mindset. If you want to really keep your people intact, if you want to keep your people who are not a part of the organization, who are interviewing with you,
Mm.
also to go and talk about you as a brand, then I think come what may, you would, push yourself and say, no, this is not the process that I would, be looking into. These are some process leakages in the way I hire. We speak about the scripted interviews which still happen to this day.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
If you were
Tell
saying
me something about yourself. Well, you have gone through my resume. I mean, like,
the
you should be
funniest
knowing
one
it by
joke of the century is where do you see yourself 5 years from now?
Right.
Now it's becoming a joke. Where do you see yourself? Well, with the pandemic around, at least I wish to see myself alive.
Right. My answer would be the same now. It'd be hopefully not in the same spot.
Yeah, hopefully not in the same spot and hopefully alive. Because if I'm
Right.
alive, I would be doing.
Why do you want to join us? Shrabonee, why do you want to join us?
Because I need a freaking job and you have one open in the market.
That's the reason why I want to join you.
Yeah, I mean, why do I want to join you? You're not Jesus that I want to always follow you. You have a job, I have a resume, we match, I
You
want a
have
freaking job. So yeah, I'm sorry, Atif, you were saying something, and I think
Yeah.
Yeah, three things I wanted to talk about: ethics. I wanted to talk about counseling, and the third point. I mean, you talked about where do you see yourself 5 years from now. I mean, now the
Masters?
emerging and the most looked after competency in these times is basically how the person is capable enough to deal with ambiguity. This is one of the competencies which is a hot topic of discussion these days.
Oh.
How we can basically adapt to uncertainty. So that is one particular attribute being looked into interviews in the dissection process. Anyways, coming to the ethics part and the counseling part, how many of us have, when we are interviewing people, we basically get into a counseling mode, which is something I do because
I do it.
a person comes to me, he
Yep.
has an MBA degree with a specialization in marketing, and he is already possessed by marketing, but nowhere the person seems to be fit enough for the marketing role. But he says, I've done MBA marketing, so I just want to make a career in marketing. Or he has invested by chance from a campus placement from his B school. He got into marketing, maybe
Wanted a
because of some
strategy.
nice presentation on the interview, in front of the interview panel. Because of a super presentation, he got interviewed. As it is, he was a fresher then, he got into marketing, and then he had invested 2 years. But then that person comes to me for the next job. I do a counseling that, hey man, you are better for a people management role. Come on, you realize that. So that is, I get into a counseling
Yes.
because I feel really need to help out that person to discover himself. Secondly,
Yes.
on the ethics part, sometimes we as hiring managers, we have these deadlines, and those
Yes.
people, those poor applicants, they are on the run for a job, basically to support their families financially.
Yes.
Regardless of the kind of role, they just need a job.
Right.
And regardless of the fit, we really need to meet the deadlines. So how ethical are we really? Are we basically taking people for the sake of taking at the cost of their careers? How ethical those considerations are always there. I really try to be honest and tell them that no, I can explain my management. I will look out for other sources of recruiting. But then, hey man, you are fit for this role. You are fit for a teacher's role, or maybe you are fit for a marketing research, or maybe you are better fit for a people management role. So these are three other
Yes.
dimensions I wanted to discuss.
Yes. I want to actually share a little funny here, but I want to share a personal experience where one of my known organizations. So I was actually nowhere part of the organization as such. I was just visiting them. It was just a meeting, and this person said, we have around few interviews. Would you just be part of the panel? I said, okay, if you think I'm worth my idea, sure. So they said, yeah, you bring in a different perspective, just walk in. I said, okay. So this role that they were hiring for is like a mid senior, like a mid senior level
10 plus years, 10
managerial.
plus years.
Yes, a 10 plus kind of. And then this person sitting in front, so there was this very impressive gentleman, very beautiful resume, everything. So the discussion was like, ambiguity and unseen projects, like if you're okay to deal with that, or guide your team along with it, because there will be ambiguity, there will be situations you don't know. So can you guide your team? Are you still self-motivated? Can you take risks? So that was happening. And the conversation went very well. It was going on. So we were probably expecting it to be between 30 to 40 minutes, but it was going on. So it somewhere was touching about an hour. And then he got a call. And he was like, sorry, I have to take this call. So we were like, okay. So we thought it was like an emergency. So he was visibly not okay. So he was like, okay. And we were like, is everything okay? So he said, yeah, it was my wife, and I told her that I would be back home in an hour after the interview, but because it is taking time, so she gets all, and me and my friend, we were like looking at each other. This guy was talking about risk-taking abilities and ambiguity, and I can do with the high stakeholding scenarios, and we were just looking at each other and we smoked. Okay, so we had said nothing, we just said nothing, but it was pretty clear. I mean, if you're freaking out at your wife's call, just instead of handling it, And he said, "Oh, I can remain calm and work under pressure." So we were just looking at each other. And we were like, yeah, okay.
But then, yes, the wife's
Laid
call
out
is a wife's
out
call.
there, your personality suddenly gets laid out, and we couldn't just not help but thank his wife in our heart, because she made it very clear that, dude, you cannot walk under risk, and you freak out when there's a if your boss calls, or if your wife calls, or if your kid calls, and you freak out, and you're freaking the other person out too. I mean, if your team member is watching you, and we freaked out, we thought he was in some kind of an emergency for those few seconds. I mean, so what you told, Atif, when a person is saying something,
Right.
and you see that the person, so we are like, you are great, but not for new projects or innovations where there are high risks. You're more fine with projects which has a smoother flow. So
Stable.
when I come at this point of time, I can go back at that point of time, but I don't have to, I don't have ambiguity in each day where I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm okay with that. So this gentleman did get hired, but for a different role. So his resume was good. So he was hired for a different role, a similar position, but a different team.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So and the guy who got hired was someone, again. Why why I'm mentioning this is because he had at least 1 inch of his resume filled with things written about his passion for adventure sports. So I
Whoa,
said,
that's cool.
okay, adventure sports, talk about that. So that guy is risk taking. He takes calculated risks. He can get into adrenaline rushing moments, but he can still keep his calm. So I said, okay, my recommendation is this. So finally, both of them got hired in different places. As long as I could remember, this was until I was in India, we were still in that organization and doing well.
Wow.
So
So that validates that validates that was the right hire.
Yeah, it
yeah,
does.
they were, but they were not judged just by the resume. It was everything beyond the resume that were the deciding factors.
It's like, as hiring managers, as hiring managers, when we become hiring managers or when we take a call on an applicant, it's that gumption that makes a difference,
Yep.
that intuition. And that intuition comes with a lot of experience because you have seen more world. That's what I would like to believe, you know. You have seen more world and you are intuitive when it comes to, you know, the skills, the unskills, the herds, the unherds, and you're able to take that kind of decision. So 80% may be a complete job fit, but the 20% is what we all risk out and we play with. So
Yep.
even in hiring is also that always a 20% of risk because you're not going to get 100%, you know,
Yeah,
candidate or an app.
100% is
So
never,
we
even
also
if we get it,
never
80 is
gonna
a
do
great
this.
match, actually, if we
80 is
get
a
that.
great match. 70 is a great match. 30 is always a risk for me also and for you also as an applicant. I am risking out on you and I've taken that bet, that challenge. I have that gumption that yes, you will do well with this. So, you see? Mm.
I also would like to tap around the other thing, which is cultural, is like how well are we, we have these underlying vibes. How are we vibing with the people we are talking to? That is actually also important, cannot be ignored. I mean, if I'm going for an interview and I meet the boss and I'm like, oh, I don't like him already. I mean, I don't think I'm going to enjoy working with him.
Oh,
you know so there's the situation. If I go for an interview and I like the person talking to, a nice pleasant person, so those phases of no performance, I think we would still be comfortable tolerating each other, so there is
Yeah. It's funny. I got off a call a couple days ago. It was with a potential investor, and we really hit it off. And that was the first thing he said. He goes, he's like, I like this vibe. If that wasn't there, I wouldn't even be talking to you. I'm like, I know, I get it. Yeah,
how
totally.
many times did we talk about that, Josh? We had talked about that so many
Yep,
times, and we
we
vibe.
have.
Vibe is something we are liking, and we
Yeah,
so,
if there's a
trust
good
that vibe.
instant connection that could start the journey nicely.
Yes,
culture
that's
is a
actually
very
true.
Yeah, culture is a very difficult rope to walk on. And,
Yes.
you know, and when people say that I understand the culture of the organization, I know it in and out, that's not possible. You
No.
can
Yeah.
never, because it has those layers, it has those peels, you know, and
Agreed.
every peel and layer is different. So we cannot judge an applicant just on the basis of some value system that we have in the organization if I'm not able to demonstrate that value as an interviewer during the interview process. Okay, so
Yeah,
Well said.
that's very true. I think
like,
it is an all encompassive factor, which is
it's
a lot of
and
things to take on your resume.
three in 3 or 4 rounds, how are you going to judge someone on the culture? How can you even come to a conclusion that this person is not a culture fit?
Trust me, 3 or 4 rounds
I
is still okay. People judge by the first round.
First round, not a culture
Yeah.
fit.
That's
Very true.
that's not that's not great, because I knew a person. She was a very, very, not just a hard worker, but she was a very dedicated worker. Like, she would go beyond her efforts and everything. So she took about 2 years of break during her child birth and everything, and then she got judged out by, why is there a gap on your resume? Because I became a mom.
Was
It's becoming a
became a
mom is
mom.
like a full-time project management role. And then her recruiter, so she did join this organization, but her recruiter asked some questions she felt was very insulting. So I would not go into the details, but there was some very personally lined questions, and she felt very insulted. And she called
Mm.
me the next day, and she said that, do these things really matter? I mean, do you ask? And she was like, do you ask these questions to someone who is probably, has taken a break because of reasons? I said, no, this is even unethical to even ask such questions. I mean, why is the recruiter,
Mm.
concerned?
Hmm.
And she said, am I getting judged because of that? Is my dedication being questioned? I said, no. And if that recruiter did that, just have a talk with your, if you really want to take up the job, just have a talk with the person
So,
whom you would be reporting to, and see if
Mm.
you feel well. If you do not, don't take up the job. But apparently, the person she was reporting to, she was nice, and they felt. So I said,
yeah.
then ignore the recruiter. They don't have a role much to play beyond this. So then ignore. But this is not something you can get judged upon. So simply, first round, and she was getting questioned and judged for certain things, and that too, not
It
really.
was very condescending, very, very
Yeah.
condescending,
Yeah.
insulting.
And if you remember, as a counter to such kind of stuff, there was one movement launched by Tata. If you people remember, there's a beautiful book called Tata Log, written by one of the senior executives of Tata, where they had launched a campaign on welcoming women back to work. And through such initiatives, as you mentioned, maybe it's childbirth or some other reasons, very genuine. So they were welcoming applicants only for women who had taken a break for genuine reasons. And that was so much celebrated.
It's always
I mean, the
setting
message
right
went far and wide. Awesome.
What is that called, Atif? What is the book called?
Tata Log, LOG.
Got it. I'll look at that. Thank you.
Just in case you might be interested, Tata's is actually one of the finest groups with the finest work cultures and ethics, rather. So
In India.
I can tell you like I can write a book about why Tata's is so great. So my father is an ex-Tata employee.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He worked with Tata's for 18 years, and when he decided to take a break or rather move on into the next phase of his career, he couldn't detach from us because the people are so great, and he is still like forever a Tata man because of the culture, the respect, the everything. I mean, you just talk about, and is Tata one of the best payers in the industry? No,
Not really.
no. But everything else, I mean, it is they give, of course, industrially good salary, not the best payers in the industry, but everything else comes up as such a respectable, great package that a person who joins this group would never want to leave. Speaks immensely about that company. I mean, they are one of the most respected groups in the world. They just acquired Jaguar some time back, so automobile stories.
JLR.
I'm going to check out that book.
Acquired by Tata.
ATA. Just look up and you will find a whole generations of amazing practices, about that.
I definitely will. My apologies, but I do have to hop off. I've got calls that are blowing my phone up. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
No issues.
Popping off too. That's fine. But thank you so much for joining, Josh.
Thank you so much, Josh.
Thank you so much for having me. And again, so sorry I was late. I hope to see you guys again.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye. So, Atif, I have a question for you. So, in the manufacturing setup, and dealing with blue-collared employees, which talks a lot about experiential factors that you see, and the other side of skill set. What are the factors? What are the primary hiring criterias that you set? Like whether the person is a newcomer or experienced. So what are the few very critical hiring criterias that you have to set because it's a manufacturing?
We actually have a very unique style of appointing people as far as blue collar workers are concerned, because our organization, we have a dedicated CSR team, and we are doing a lot of CSR work. A lot of our profits amount goes into the CSR. So we have a local obligation of giving back to the society. So we are hiring always locals. So we are only hiring locals wherever our setup is located. And we are doing mostly reference recruiting through the existing workforce. And we do not have any unions as such and no headaches as such, because we go beyond the usual employee benefits as per our policies and the statutory obligations by providing them household benefits, by providing them housing, by providing them childcare benefits, by providing hospital concessions. So I mean, there is no issues as such, because we do much more, because we are doing the entire CSR work in the local community, building up a hospital which is close to 350 beds now. We are providing free education for the orphans. Of all these, they are all beneficiaries. All the employees are all beneficiaries. So it's a very simple recruitment and hiring system out here. We basically, for the blue collar workers, it's a very usual unskilled and semi-skilled kind of a job where the criteria is not very stringent. However, as far as the behavioral aspects are concerned, we do basically the ref check very strongly, the background check, the ref check, and all that. So I mean, no union as such, no issues as such. So it's pretty easy in that way. And there is so much of a loyalty and connection, a strong bonding with the organization. This is our local company. Our management is doing so much for our children, the society. They're building roads, they're building up hospitals. So you just announce, and there are 300 people in your office.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Okay,
the criteria is based on strong referrals and backgrounds. Yeah, so that's
Strong
actually.
referrals, yeah, not from the open market. Yeah,
Mhm.
Ah, okay. So tell me something, Atif. When you say a strong referral, is a double-edged sword. You see, one needs to be very careful when you get the referrals in,
absolutely,
because it may
absolutely.
happen that a referral can make or break your organization. And,
Absolutely.
there are many examples like that in the HR world where, the referrals have come in and, they have kind of brought the organization together, or they have completely dismantled. A lot of examples. So how do you walk the talk? How do you take care of that aspect, that the referrals don't kind of stale the system, or kind of mold
Absolutely.
the system out?
Absolutely.
How do you take care of that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. See, so the kind of we are into manufacturing. When we say we are into manufacturing, we are into wood processing. We have certain trees are there which are very valuable. That
Okay.
those trees we do the cultivation, we do the chipping of the logs, and then there is a very skilled work which they do basically on the wood to carve out the material which is from which perfumes are being made. So we are into manufacturing of perfume. So that calls for a skilled job. And that skill is basically concentrated in this part of the country.
Okay.
So we are like duty bound to pick up from those particular pockets only, and that sameness comes into the picture. And exactly, I agree.
Yeah.
Exactly, I agree. When
Birds
there
of
is
feathers
sameness,
flock together. You see?
absolutely. When there is sameness in the upper ladders of the hierarchy, poison starts spreading. That really becomes difficult. But I'm sometimes, as far as this particular skill is concerned, I don't have much options, because this labor is basically concentrated in certain pockets. But when it comes to other areas like security, appointing security personnel, appointing basically security officers, I make sure that I have a right mix of people with the diversity, so that there is no compromise. Because sometimes there are relatives, there
Ah,
are acquaintances which really eats up the system. We have found many cases where they have compromised on the quality and the code of conduct. That
Yeah.
becomes a problem. So this is my policy. We do the transfers in the blue collar
ah,
worker. As far as different places are concerned, we do the location transfers very frequently. That's our system and policy. And we bring in different people from different diverse backgrounds, also protecting the diversity objective, and just to avoid, keep at bay such incidents.
incidents.
So
Yes. I
what
mean,
I
like,
could sum up from what you said, Atif, is like what you very rightly said. Even in the same organization, the one size fit all criteria doesn't go. So you
Absolutely.
need to, based on the roles and based on the job a person is expected to perform, based on the environment in which a person is expected to perform. So you have to keep several criterias in mind, that these are
Absolutely.
changing aspects, but these are the factors even in the same organization, based on whether the person is going to be a front end worker, a flow worker, or a security person, or a back office person. So the criteria has changed. So this is one of the learning factors which I think a lot of recruiters and
mm,
every other organization and industry should learn, that one size fit all criteria will not go.
No,
Because
not
I,
at all.
I I don't know, Manjula, you may have heard this. I'm sure that sometimes people have this way of saying that this is how we hire. This is
yes.
our hiring practice.
How it is done here. This is how it is
This
done
is
here.
how it is done here. So what Atif just said is that this is how it's done here is a very moving target. You cannot say this is what we do, this is what we have done, this is how my nana ji and
Absolutely.
this nana did, so I have to do it the same. It doesn't work, right? So this is also one of the very critical
It's
learning
that
which you
you
shared,
also
Atif.
call this as a monkey culture. I mean, like one monkey coming in and telling this is how, this is how it needs to be, and it becomes a culture and becomes a monkey culture, because everyone does the same thing and follows the same route or the path without even applying their brains. Why are we doing this for the last 10-15 years, and still we are not really doing
Yeah.
that great? So,
The other thing, because Atif, you may relate to it, is the 5S concept, like I'm sure you have heard this thing. Like,
In the
if we are doing
manufacturing.
it, if we, especially manufacturing, it's like if we are doing it, like, why are we doing it? And exactly how is it adding to the process? So, a lot of times you need to question ourselves, like, if we are doing it, exactly how is it adding value, or how is it saving my time, energy, effort, and making us more productive? So these things, I don't know. I mean, a lot of times people go beyond these questions. People go beyond these. Just because a person has 5S mentioned doesn't necessarily mean that they are actually practicing that. I mean, are you questioning them on
Exactly.
that? Do you question them on these things? Like, just tell me something that you did. I mean, one of the very simple concepts of 5S is how do you arrange your own desk? Isn't it? It's one of very simple criterias. If you're not practicing it at home, if you have a hard time finding one pair of socks here and one pair of socks there, and you say, I'm a 5S practitioner. Really?
I'm an organizer.
Yeah,
I'm very
really.
organized.
I'm so organized that I don't even know where my two pairs of socks are. Because I go here and
Interesting. I
there,
mean,
here
if
and
you go and see somebody's room, and if you see everything shabby and everything scattered,
there. And the person says,
you
I'm
get
a
an
5S
impression whether the
practitioner.
person will really be organized. These are certain kind of indications. Really, would that person be organized? And a person who is really maintaining a lifestyle where he is least bothered about his health. So if he is not able to take care of himself, do you think he's able
How
to
will you
take
take
care
care
of
of it?
the people under him? So
Yeah.
these are certain, basically we can get so many indications when we are so much into
Indications.
people management. So those are small things, but they sometimes communicate a lot of things.
Yeah,
See, people
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. I
just
mean, I'm telling you, this is something I heard from one person in my previous organizations. I was in the major project with the manufacturing sector. So we had this simple 5S thing, like practice 5S. So we told everyone, just do a simple thing. Take a picture of your desk now, and after you arrange, take a picture later. And that's a simple example of your 5S thing of how you can perform your work better, and just tell us if it's making it your life easier. In a week, in a single week, I think we had 21 or 22 people coming back and saying, this is the simple thing we did. It saved us several minutes, because we were hunting for this, we were hunting for that.
Right,
We
absolutely.
got it. We are able to find things quick. We are able to do things quick. And the best thing is, their co-workers saw them and they were like, oh wow, now your desk looks so nice. I want to do that too. So somebody had a space for a little plant. Somebody has a space for a little picture, their child's picture. So they are adding value also by making it look more beautiful. But that is a simple, very, very, very simple, basic example of 5S. But that's how we can at least understand people. I mean, if someone
Can
says,
I can I add a funny can I add a funny dimension to it?
sure,
I mean,
sure, especially,
you have a supervisor who is hell bent on organizing everything. Unfortunately, he has a reporting manager who is a micromanager, and he's completely unorganized. He is giving instructions as per his whims and fancies, and put the person on his toes. Now, what would be the result? Maybe a scattered desk. So he's not to be blamed sometimes. I believe the reporting manager is to be, caught for this. What do you say?
Uh, I kind of faced that sometime in my career. Okay, so my team, so I'm a person who knows how to prioritize. So there will be important tasks and there will be urgent tasks. Okay, so there will be tasks which are important. I need to do it today. I need to get it done, and there are urgent ones which are like I have to do it now because somebody's work or something in the line is waiting. So my senior, the person I was reporting to, had no clue of how this time management thing works. Okay, so he was like, "I have this thing right now. I have to." So his desk had a little pile up of papers and files. So he would dig in, and he knew exactly where to put his hands to get the. So he somehow knew, like, this is how you have to do. And we had two things. We had data which we used to take printout on, and that is how it would pile it up there. Because sometimes we would manually check it just in case we miss out while we are, checking some, of these LMS things. Or so whatever. Anyways, so he would put that pressure on me. Like, oh, we did it. So I tried doing it for 1 or 2 months, and then I figured out I wanted to tear my hair and then wanted to tear his also, So I was like, this is not how it works. So I told him, calm down. This is not the end of the world. If that person needs this to be done, he would be sitting on top of your head. But don't make their urgency your urgency, even if they are not in that state of urgency. So you need to know when to calm down. What I did was, and I was at the risk of actually getting a bad, rating or something. But I said, I cannot do this, and you shouldn't do that either. So just stop. If this matters to you next week, if this urgency and if this thing, if something supposedly we don't do it, if this makes a difference to us next week, then this is urgent. But if doesn't make a difference and you won't even remember it next week, then this doesn't matter. So this can wait. So we started calming ourselves on that, and he would still bring back things to me, and I would say, I would not even say, I would just say. So he realized, okay, and then it was fine. It was doing better, and I think it took us a couple of months, but yes, he started managing better because the person didn't know how to, do that urgency thing.
Type and organize. Hey, we
And
have Kiran with us. Hey, Kiran.
and this looks like we are going to get bumped off in another 5 minutes. So
Yes.
so I think I don't know if Kiran is even getting connectivity. Is she or is he? Sometimes
Don't know.
I get confused with.
Yeah, I just saw the.
Yeah, so never mind. So what I think we can do is we'll keep this today's discussion till here, but we would certainly take this up again because it's great connecting. Atif, thank you so much, and of course I want
My
to
pleasure.
thank you as well and Josh for for being there and contributing. So we will connect again and we'll share the dates.
Manjula madam was the pull factor for me for today's joining in, because she really provided a lot of valuable insights in one of the sessions I attended. So I thought this is a must attend for me today.
Thank you. Yes, thank you
and,
for
and
that.
pleasure. I could gain a lot of insights from you as well, and everybody who was here.
And we could learn from you too. So thank you so much for joining in. I think we would continue this every month at least. We would be having a monthly discussion on that. So please keep sharing your thoughts, inputs, and everything.
Yeah. Just share us with, share it with us as to what aspects of HR you would like us to, talk about, and where would you
And
want to
engage in the
share
sessions too. So yes,
and
and
engage
join.
in sessions like that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I think
So how would I know? When are we connecting next? Maybe a LinkedIn tagging or something, tag or something.
Yes. We definitely add me up also, Atif. So we'll certainly tag you, and you'll be aware. We'll be told.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Manjula, for your time and insights, and thank you,
It was
Atif.
really nice. I think
Thank you.
Kiran,
Bye bye.
Bye.
Kiran, we're not able to talk to you, but then the session is.
We will continue again another time. Another day, another discussion will happen for sure.
Bye bye. Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Okay.